debate tactics and throw them off guard and like, churn it around and just having an honest conversation. They think you're going to be one way, and you go, no. Like one thing that throws people off is when I don't defend Trump. They want you to they want it to go into this certain direction, and I go, no, screw Trump, whatever, I get it, he's a goofy guy, he says goofy stuff, sure, okay, let's talk. Let's just stick to the issues. Or I'll again, instead of playing team sports and saying like no way, and like you said, fitting the stereotype, and I go, no, climate change is bullshit, or again, whatever the issue they want me to fit the box into, I'll just say no, okay, and you agree on certain things, and they're kind of taken aback. They're like, oh, okay. So you're not this evil Nazi. You don't want to just like, burn oil and throw it into the ocean or whatever this kind of cartoon image they have in their head of you. They go, oh wow, you're actually friends with Mexicans. You just, you want immigration to be more reasonable. Okay, like I think anybody who's actually willing to have the conversation will be taken aback. Like we were saying, it's basically the free speech kind of is the solution, and that's why they're trying to shut it down so desperately. It's because once you expose yourself, I mean, I had the same experience actually with like neo-Nazis, like legit, not like quote unquote, no, I mean actual Nazis, like the Daily Stormer and countercurrents.com, because I remember just when I started to follow the rabbit hole and go deeper and deeper, and I started to just through the YouTube algorithm and through links in the comments and whatever, I found myself in places on the internet that I thought like, ooh, that's like a danger zone, and you start to listen and you go, oh, like, for example, actually, it was a debate between Sargon of Akkad and Andrew Anglin, who's he's the head of, And I remember Sargon, who I do respect, and I like his beliefs and stuff. But anyways, in the debate, he was basically doing what we're saying, where he said he was trying to throw him off and talk about his upbringing. And it actually made me go, oh, wow, he was human, right? This neo-Nazi, I guess he had traveled all over, and he was in some tribe. He almost married some like Filipino tribe person.
I genuinely have to know this, right? When you're in the Philippines living with Muslims and you were going to get 2 Muslim wives, is that true?
No,
that's not true.
Look, Sargon, no, that shit.
That's article, just not true.
You're trying to do some kind of fucking gotcha shit here, and
no, I'm just curious.
A lot of that shit in that article was just made.
I'm just curious if you converted to Islam.
Everyone sees what you're doing.
They wouldn't marry outside of Islam, and I'm really curious if you're an apostate too.
Okay, I'll tell you this story.
Yeah,
I lived in a jungle, and I lived there for a year. Okay, I lived in a jungle for an entire year with a primitive tribe. I did not get married. There were a lot of people who wanted me to marry their daughters in this jungle tribe. I did not want to be involved in that. Okay, that's the story. And it's
was it rough living in the tribe?
What?
Was it rough living in a tribe?
Yeah, I mean, it was warm, but it was wet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I've never been to a Philippine jungle, so. But okay, well, no, seriously, that's interesting. Because the thing is,
it's an interesting story, but I mean, you're doing that as like, oh, I got you.
No, look at you.
I mean, obviously you are, because why would you say that right now, Sargon? When you've been trying to say it this whole time, that this was your thing. You were going to be like, you married 2 Filipino girls. So, I mean, this was obviously a thing that you're doing here Andrew, to try and get at me, just like you did
in Western countries. Okay, you might be the most oppressed person. And if you were also an apostate, in addition to being a Nazi,
apostate,
yeah, if you had converted to Islam to marry some women,
no, these girls were not Islam. I don't know where that part of the story. Okay. I mean, a lot of this story is just bullshit. These were they worshiped trees and shit.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I could explain that of what their religion was as far as the nature gods and spirits. I mean, I lived in this, but no, they weren't Muslim. That's just.
Right. Okay. The Atlantic. If I recall correctly, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but the Atlantic suggested they were Muslim, and I thought that was strange because Philippines is Catholic. But
yeah, no, these were pre-Christian tribal people.
Right. Okay.
And yeah,
I bet they were thick as 2 short planks
with these people for a year of my life, and it was a very interesting experience. I still have a place in my soul for these people that I stayed with there. I mean, of course I do. So this idea that I'm some kind of genocidal maniac is wrong. But I think a lot of what I believe now came from the experiences that I've had in the third world. And I think that particular experience, because I mean, it's a long time. when there's no, I mean, I did have books, okay, but you know, I mean, it was a lot of just being in nature. There was no electricity.
Could you speak the language they were speaking?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. Because I tell you what, I would fucking go nuts. I wouldn't be able to stand it. Like just living in a jungle, just fuck me. But yeah, I was curious if you were actually the most oppressed human on Earth. But not being an apostate means you're not the most oppressed human on Earth. If I can find someone who is also a Nazi and also an apostate, they'll be the most oppressed. But I was genuinely curious. It was like,
well, that's cute.
That's a crazy life story, you know? That's a genuinely crazy life story. And honestly, I want to kind of humanize you a bit. That's
well, I've come about this honestly, and I am a human, and I do not have any desire to just randomly hurt people. That's not any part of my personal agenda. What I believe and what my experiences have taught me is that you have to have communities. People have to exist as a part of something other than themselves. And I think that this whole individuality thing, obviously people deserve individual rights and justice and so on, but when you break humanity down into these units as individuals, you take away their soul. There is no human being who is not who can exist not being a part of something bigger than himself. And I just this is what I believe, and I believe that for the future, for the people who are yet to be born, and for the kids coming up, that I have a duty, a moral duty, to fight for the establishment of a free white homeland.
I honestly, I'm genuinely disappointed, Andrew. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. You wanted me to say some crazy shit so you can play
well,
it.
You
like
say
I was
crazy
nuts.
shit every day on your website.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's tongue in cheek. It's joking.
Is it?
Look,
I that's a shame.
Because
the mainstream doesn't think it's tongue in cheek.
I'm not sure on all this. I'll have him on the podcast and ask him to explain it himself. But anyways, it's just like, oh, that even for me, like I have to admit that even I can do the same thing, and I'm trying to give the same amount of respect that I would hope they give to me to other people. Like again, some of my friends are like actual communists, and I say, okay, defend yourself and just kind of ask questions and I think that's that's a good way to avoid just getting in the mud and just having these pointless conversations. But I wanted to switch back to kind of what you were saying about Yugoslavia or some potential collapse. I usually ask questions like this because I view the same as no one can predict the future, but it seems like based on current trends, there's going to be some sort of boiling point just with immigration. So I guess in another interview, you had mentioned, you brought up an analogy. I don't remember if it was a Swedish interview or not, but basically the analogy was like the last rat fleeing the ship. And you're talking about your kinds of beliefs of revolution, and you can feel this cultural shift. So my question is more about pragmatic solutions. And so I guess, again, no one can predict it, but what would you think are things that people who have our beliefs, and we don't share all the same beliefs, but just we share a lot of some core beliefs. People who agree with us, what can they do now to kind of wake people up, to try to bring sanity back into the world, into the political system? What are things that you think are wastes of time? And also in the big scheme of things, like if you were like the leader, if you were suddenly prime minister, what would you do to reverse the course? Or do you think accelerationism is the answer?
Oh, geez. Yeah, great questions. First of all, the most important thing, don't be a coward. That is the most important thing that anybody, that's the most important choice of any person. I mean, in Burma, if you protested against the regime, they killed you. In the Soviet, they took you out. They took you to Lubyanka, cut open your kneecaps or whatever, and and gave you a headshot and buried you behind under a farm or something. In Sweden, you protest. Oh no, you get less pay. Oh, you get a problem with the boss. Oh no. Oh, they give you that stare. Oh, that stare. Ooh, we don't want to have that stare from our colleagues. Ooh, and the colleagues don't say hello when I go to the coffee machine anymore. Oh no! And I mean, what kind of middle class problem is that? I mean, if people kill you because you say what you think, okay, I can understand that you shut up. If people don't say hello any longer when you say what you think, who cares? And I think that is one of the most, I mean, annoying things that I discovered during those 2 years that we have done this kind of music that sort of reveal the less attractive parts of society, is that people are cowards. Most people are extreme cowards, and as I said, I can understand if people in the Soviet Union kept their head low because they didn't want to get killed or deported or anything. But when the only thing you basically risk is a part of your income, you risk losing a few friends, and that is basically it. In worst cases, it can be. In some cases, it can be worse, but mostly that's it. And they're scared to go that way. That annoys me. That cowardice. So that is the first thing. Never be a coward. If they kill you, fair enough, shut up. If they don't kill you, if they don't gonna kill you or your family, say what you think anyway. The second part, I think, that is very important, is to work on a number of levels outside of politics. I mean, I'm not primarily interested in sort of getting rid of people of a certain origin. I'm interested in getting rid of narcissists, basically narcissists, because most left-wingers are narcissists, and I hate narcissists. I grew up with narcissists, and they destroy everything they touch. They destroy societies. They destroy everything, and I don't want to live in a society where these, excuse me for using a rude word, I won't do it again, these motherfuckers tell me what I should think, what I should do, how I should raise my children, etc., 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 etc. And stopping the narcissists, I think, is a key point in all kind of lasting change. And the narcissists must be put out of, well, they must lose power. And to get the narcissists lose power, narcissists, they want social status. They want to be famous. They want to be someone, but they have no talent. They have no talent whatsoever. So when a narcissist wants to climb higher on the social ladder, what he or she does is that he or she is trying to drag everyone above down, because narcissists have no talent, so they can't advance because of their talent. So they try to spoil for everybody else, which is why also they want culture to be this bland mix of blah blah, because that suits them. They want jobs that require no competence. They want everything to require as little competence as possible. So everything they do must be seen from that perspective. And how do you stop that? Well, in my world, you stop that because through creation. You create stuff. You create an alternative. You always create an alternative. You can't just say, "Oh, stop listening to all those artists who promote this rainbow culture and they're like they're like totally screwed up in their heads, and they dance on stage with minimal clothing and sing all those total nonsense songs about partying. If you don't want that, give them an alternative. Don't just complain. Create something. Because as long as you don't create something, people can't choose anything else. And this brings me to the second, or the third, or the fourth, I don't know. That brings me to my next point. Don't stick to politics only. I hate politics personally. I think politics is so extremely boring, and I try to stay away from it as far as I can. Now I have had to get involved into it a little bit because we were so fed up after being so badly treated by Swedish radio. But I'm trying to just get away from it because I hate it. But the problem is that when, I don't say everybody, but when most people are on sort of the right side, when they think about changing society, and this is perhaps a bit mean thing to say, and it isn't always true, but I say it anyway, they start a news service that spread news about rape, murder, crisis. Trump is doing that, a war, breakdown, and they talk about all those things that they say media don't report on, and that is brilliant. But when everybody does that, you don't get very far, because there are only, quite frankly, there are only a limited amount of people who actually care what happens. Most people don't care. They listen to their favorite artist, and their favorite artist said, "Oh, I hate Trump, and I will leave America if Trump comes to power." And they don't really think any further. They just think, "Oh, I hate Trump too," or anybody. Not just Trump. I'm just using Trump as an example here. The thing is that most people, they are on that level. They don't care about the latest rape. They don't care about profound ideology. They don't care about, how do one create a functioning society? Do we look at Plato? Do we look at Aristotle? And most people just sigh and walk away because they don't even know who Plato or Aristotle really were, and they wouldn't care if they knew. And it's important, of course, that you do all those things, but when everybody does it, you attract the people who care, but you don't attract the people who don't care. And if you want to win anything and make a lasting change, you got to attract all those people who don't care too, because there are lots of them. There are extremely lots of them. And yeah, as soon as a civil war breaks out, they will start to care. But if you don't want to wait for an all-out civil war all over the Western world, then you better try to attract them now. You doing this podcast, this is a brilliant thing, I think, because you're doing these very deep talks, and you focus on good stuff. How can you, what are good ways forward? And you talk about stuff in a way that I believe that many people don't, because most people, well, they say they're white pilled, but they're actually black pilled. But you're trying to sort of inspire people, and I think that is very fascinating, which is why I started to like the show from when I heard the first episodes of it. And you got to do more of that, doing stuff that not everybody else is doing. I've always wanted, when will the first right-wingers start a major sports service, or a fashion blog, or reviewing cosmetics, or selling makeup or whatever, and or a music blog or whatever. I mean, we started a music blog a couple of years ago, basically a right-wing music blog, me and Lilou, in 2017. But we had to cancel it just a year later because it took too much time, because we're making music at the same time, so we didn't have the time or energy to keep it up. But anyway, that was a start anyway, and I hope more people could think that way. What can we do that not everybody else is doing that can attract people that really are not that, well, that always don't care, but they just want something new, something different, and we can offer them something new, something different. I mean, if somebody started a right-wing fashion blog, for example, I mean, how awesome wouldn't that be? I think it could attract tons of people. We wrote an article on America.org about right-wing subcultures, a right-wing subculture guide. And we did it in a kind of humorous way. We wrote about fascists, we wrote about libertarians, we wrote about paleocons. I mean, and we tried to sort of, in a funny way, tell how do you dress when you meet them, how do you talk, what music do you think they listen to, how will you behave when you're dating them, and doing it in a kind of soft way. And those things are needed too. So be courageous. Be courageous all the time. Create stuff, and create stuff that no one else has created before, that no one is doing. Because what people need to create real lasting change is diversity. And diversity means more than just immigration. Diversity means a diversity in ideas, a diversity in perspectives. I mean, as long as there isn't a big right-wing sport outlet, people will have to go to left-wing channels to watch sport. And when they go to left-wing channels to watch sport, they finance the left-wing channels, and they probably watch the news there as well. And yeah, you see, you got to create all those alternatives. And I think that the moment that right-wingers start doing that and start getting white-pilled for real, then I think things will start to change deep down. They say politics is downstream from change, and I mean, downstream is from culture, I mean, and I'm more into culture, not too much into politics. As I said, politics is not my thing. I'm more into culture. And if you want to change culture, you got to start culture. You can't just do it by creating 10,000 memes, because that's not culture. That is an online prank. And yeah, it can affect people, but it's just a little tiny piece of what culture really is.
You're preaching to the choir. And first off, thank you for your kind words. I don't know. I agree. I mean, even for the people who do care, like I care, but it's just there's only so much that a human psyche can take of just everyday reading. Okay, another woman got raped and murdered and was brutally beaten, and again, and the police just kind of let the guy go, or just like this, just so depressing, even for the people who do care. And so yeah, we definitely we need an alternative, but I think there's also a catch-22, because I think that, I mean, I would love to just watch sport. Well, actually, I don't really care too much about sports, but anyways, you know, media in general, Hollywood, any cultural stuff. I don't think it should be political at all. And I think parts of it should be, and I think there should be some subtle, you know, of course, if the artist has certain philosophies or political beliefs, there is a time and a place for that, and good art has that. So I'm not saying that it shouldn't at all, but it shouldn't be the default. And so the catch-22, I think, is that a lot of right-wingers by default, we're all about free speech. And so we don't shut them down, they shut us down. And so I forgot the term for it. Somebody made up, it's kind of like Godwin's law. It's one of those things. I forgot what it's called. But anyways, it's the theory that, as soon as one leftist gets in, it's only a matter of time before an organization becomes completely leftist. And it's because of this belief that they have in the way that they act, that they kind of exclude others, that they inject politics into everything. And I think most right-wingers would believe, you know what, who cares? Just have a fashion. And if it's, it shouldn't be political one way or the other. And so, I mean, again, that's the catch-22 is I want it to be neutral. I want to be apolitical. I want to just, get along kumbaya with left-wingers, right-wingers. But when we do that, that's why I think things have gotten so bad, is because for decades we've just been just laying back and saying, well, it's not my place. And, just the kind of the quote that people say is shut up and sing. And they say, well, if you're a right winger, just keep your politics to yourself. And a lot of actors and actresses are right wing, but they have to keep it secret. They have to hide their power level because they get ostracized, they get kicked out, they get blacklisted. And so I agree with you, and we've come to the same conclusion that yes, we need to make right wing, fashion blogs and media outlets and multiple different things, but I wish it wasn't this way. I wish we could just kind of have a mix. I wish we could, watch some movies and sometimes it's left wing, sometimes it's right wing. And I think the other thing, to be fair, to give benefit of the doubt, and I guess not to straw man and to steel man the left, is that I think this is a true stereotype that left wingers and artsy people tend to be more emotional and more idealistic, and so maybe they gravitate towards those politics. And so because it seems like it's all over the planet that a lot of people in media tend to be more left wing. And so to their credit, I think that's why it is the way it is. But I don't know, I agree. I think we need to create more. I'm just so sick of this naysaying, this just nitpicking. It's like a wife or something, like something out of a TV show, that they just the right winger image. And that is I think an accurate image, is that when you watch these, Alex Jones, who I like, but all these YouTube commentators, all it is a neo-reactionary saying, oh, this sucks and I hate this and I hate that, and can you believe what they did? And you watch left wingers and they kind of seem more jovial. And only in recent years, I think in maybe the past 5 years, it's actually been kind of turned upside down on its head, that the right wingers are the ones who can laugh at themselves, who can make jokes, and the left wingers have become the ones that are like that. And so I think now's the time, and now I'm kind of optimistic because we can feel it. There's that cultural shift, and actually a lot of the good comedians, a lot of the good art actually is it's subversive. And in order to be subversive, you kind of have to be a right winger now, because the neoliberals, the neocons, they have all the power.
I just want to comment on that last thing you said there.
Sure.
Short. When we talk about right wing, left wing, etc., I mean, of course, we talk about politics in a way. But when I say right wing fashion blog, I don't mean a political right wing. I mean a cultural right wing. So I mix it up a little when I speak, and I'm sorry for that. But what I mean is a right wing cultural alternatives, not political alternatives. And that is my base point here. I mean, when you look at the left want everybody to be on the same level, because narcissists want everybody to be on the same level, because they don't want good people, talented people, to be talented. That is why they always want losers on they always want to push losers forward and stop winners, because in that sense that they can be better. A right wing attitude, and I mean in a cultural sense, means that a winner is a winner, a loser is a loser, and don't try to stop that, because somebody who is talented should be rewarded for it, and should be the role model. Somebody who isn't talented should not be a role model. So we talk about, I think we talk a little bit about two different things here, politics and culture. And I understand that they are kind of mixed up when people talk on a daily basis. But yeah, that's my
No, I agree. I know what you mean, and honestly, it's just like I feel like there's just no good words in the English language to define what we mean, and that's why I keep saying neoliberal,
Yeah.
neoconservative, whatever. And I guess I feel like we're on the same page. And what I would say is like the unifying belief that ties what I believe is the right versus the left, and same thing whether it's cultural, political, whatever, and what has actually tied my beliefs together over the years, even though I've kind of shifted from more libertarian to more alt-right, and I've kind of gone back and forth. The one thing that is tied it together is just the understanding of human nature, I guess, and being realistic and not idealistic about human nature. So, for example,
Yeah.
communism versus capitalism, and saying, look, okay, it just doesn't make sense. It's just not human nature. There's always going to be some asshole who doesn't want to share. There's going to be corruption, and that's why communism has never actually existed. It's a utopian idea, and it inevitably evolves into some sort of oligarchy or some fascism in its own way. So I used to say that same thing, and that's why I was more libertarian. And then in recent years, again, just because of the open debate and open platform, I started to get red-pilled and go, well, the same thing's true about tribalism. And you can try as hard as you want to push humans together and say, no, kumbaya, we're all going to get along. Just stop it. Let's all just be individualists. And I've realized that, human nature doesn't go that way. We can live in harmony, I believe, to some degree, but we not like they want us to, not like the neoliberals, not like the, for lack of a better word, the left wants us to just cram us together. Yeah, but anyways, speaking of culture and kind of not being explicitly like you need to vote Donald Trump and this is my fashion blog, but just certain things that are kind of subtly more in tune with nature or down to earth or whatever. I wanted to ask you why, or maybe you do and I just haven't heard them. So correct me if I'm wrong. Why don't you have songs in Swedish? And before I let you speak, the reason I asked this is because I was traveling in Thailand. I met some Germans, and they told me that the kind of culture there is that the only way for a German artist to become popular is if he sings in English. And they said they were kind of complaining that on the radio, all the songs of German artists are only English, like when they speak in English or they sing in English. And likewise, they said that Germans are much more critical of the lyrics if they're in German, right? So they'll be like, oh, that's kind of cliche, or that's not really intelligent, or blah, blah, blah. But when a German artist sings in English, and it can be stupid, it can be just absolute trash, like party, drink alcohol, let's get fucked up, yeah, and they'll be like, oh, this is class, this is Uber, whatever. So, yeah, I'm curious. Again, you said you're not nationalist, but a lot of your songs, they like you write, on behalf of other nations, like Bolsonaro and stuff. So Poland, I heard in some of your songs. So I'm just curious, where do you stand on this, and would you make some Swedish songs in the future?
We have talked about recording some Swedish songs, but we never really been that interested in it. I think basically because I want a cultural renaissance, and Lilou wants that too. But we're not primarily interested in a cultural renaissance for Sweden. We're more concerned with a cultural renaissance for the entire world. That the whole world, people all over the world, should look into themselves. I mean, our music is often very introspective. Well, some of the songs anyway. When we started making music, they were more introspective. And we want people to sort of look at themselves, to grow, to look inside themselves for strength, instead of looking at other people and trying to mimic them. And that has nothing really to do with Sweden, really. And that is basically relating to me saying that I'm not really a nationalist. I believe that winners should be winners, and you shouldn't stop winners. And losers are losers, and they deserve to lose because they are losers, because they choose to lose. And winners choose to win. So in a way, we are a little. I mean, I think that me and Lila are perhaps a little bit more libertarian than people think. Ever since I was little, I have written songs in English. And it has nothing to do really with. I mean, I can relate to that story with the German tourists there in Thailand, talking about, well, it's hard for German singers in Germany. In Sweden, we don't have that problem because in Sweden, Swedish songs are. I mean, they play Swedish songs all the time on the radio. People sing in Swedish, they sing crappy songs, but they sing in Swedish. So the Swedish language isn't a really big deal for us. And I basically want a world of people. I basically want a world of winners, not a world of losers, because I want to go to. I mean, I want to go as a tourist to another country, visit that country, go back to my country. And when I'm in that foreign country, I don't want to be in a country of losers. I want to be in a country of winners. If I go to India, to South Africa, to Colombia, to Canada, to Finland, Korea, I want to go to countries where there are winners. People think like winners. I don't want to go to countries where people think like losers. So for me, it's. I mean, you could probably call me a kind of a globalist in that sense, I guess, because I want a global cultural renaissance. So the traditional. I mean, you said earlier that we don't have any good words to describe these things, and that is a big problem because we're stuck with words that doesn't cover what we actually mean. I mean, on a website we call ourselves anarcho-traditionalists and progressive reactionaries. I mean, that is in a way our attempt to try to sort of tell people that we aren't what you expect. There are elements in what we do that you will recognize, but there are also many things that we think that other people probably can't relate to. And when we made Payback Day, for example, I mean, that's me fed up. Payback Day is me totally fed up with hypocrisy, stupidity, bigotry. I mean, all those things that I detest, all those middle class crap that I hate. Generation identitaire. I mean, that's the same thing basically. The generation of '68 that I so hate because they're so spoiled. I mean, they're middle-class people with first world problems who try to play the Messiah. Oh, they care about the entire world, but they don't care at all because they don't care about anything. Global warming might be an issue. Yes, it could be. It could be a real issue, but left-wingers will never solve it. So even if it was a problem, if it is a problem, the only way of solving it is to get rid of all left-wingers, because otherwise you can't solve it, because the 68ers, they just don't fix it. They talk about it. They talk and 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 ban people who say anything else. And then they continue to talking and talking and talking, and they write a new law that prevent people from talking in a certain way. And they always do this talking, writing nice documents, talking, and I hate that. And many of our songs is in a way a protest against that. So I wouldn't read them too too literally. When I, for example, listen to Patriot Child from our third album, I mean, if you read the text, you might think it's about the alt-right, and in some aspect, yes, it is inspired by the alt-right, but the story is basically the story of why did young people in the 1980s become skinheads. Well, because they were fed up with this middle class mentality that suffocated them, this extreme control, and they were fed up, they were angry, and they hated this hypocrisy. And then some of them took it to, well, what I would call the wrong way, but the songs aren't always about, well, it doesn't reflect my opinions, but they are inspiring, extremely inspiring. I didn't write the lyrics to USS Donald Trump from our last album because I love everything Donald Trump does, but I think he's a hell of a figure, and he is like one of those mega sharks that roamed the seas like 70 million years ago, these megalodons, etc., that ate everything. And he gets, I mean, he picks fights, and he takes on all those enemies, and he does it in his own way. And I don't judge what he does, but he has this kind of mentality that is very fascinating, and that's why I wrote that song. And Bolsonaro, for example, such a fascinating figure. I mean, got stabbed, almost died, came back. He's a hardcore anti-communist, and I mean, he want to kill all communists basically. And I mean, I don't sort of react to everything he says or everything that he's up to, but he's an extremely interesting figure, and I think that is why many people think we're hard to grasp, because we don't do the political stuff. The political stuff is not, that's basically not our concern. We do the culture stuff. We look at people, inspiring people. I think Stalin is extremely inspiring. I could write a song about Stalin. He was so extremely inspiring. Lenin was a boring rat, but Stalin was inspiring. I mean, that's the guy that I could really write a song about. So I like
The
all
Russians. If you talk to a Russian, they would love that. Most Russians here, and again, this is part of why I reject that. I don't know, the false dichotomy in saying, pigeonholing people, is because I realized that some of the propaganda I had heard as an American growing up, with just super free market stuff, is that maybe some of that's wrong, because I talked to the Russians and a lot of them missed the days when the USSR was still around, and part of it I think is propaganda that they've heard. I'm not sure completely, but I think a lot of it, they lived through it and they still liked it, and they love Stalin. They really respect Stalin. You'll see a lot of graffiti that they don't like Putin. Most people like Putin here, but I'm saying they want. And I've talked to multiple people from different families, different age groups, and they're all like, "Oh, things are better with Stalin," or like, "Man, I just wish Putin was more like Stalin." And that's really hard for the Occident, the Western peoples to understand. Like, wait, he was an asshole. He killed tons of people. He was this dictator guy, and they're like, yeah, and we respect him. I just it's really hard to grasp it. But yeah, if you did a Stalin song, I think people would love that. At least Russians would. I don't know, the Western people. So let me ask you. I'd seen. Well, I guess I'll close with this last question, and in my typical fashion, I'll kind of cram 3 different questions into one little rant. But so basically what I usually ask people is, what are some forms of media that have red pilled interpretations? So usually like music, animation, movies, whatever. And then another question I usually ask, and we'll just combine it into one, is for people who are just starting to get like red pilled or woke, or starting to change and are part of this cultural shift. Is there anything that you would recommend that they check out, like a documentary or something like that? And one of the things that you had said in another interview, you had quoted Mel Brooks, I think, when people tried to say, "Oh, you're a Nazi," you said, "Hey, I don't care what you think, I know where I stand to you." And I guess that was a Mel Brooks quote. And so really quick, I wanted to sample. My friend just showed me. I can't believe I had never seen it before. It's actually a pretty good song, pretty good video. It's Mel Brooks in a movie. It's called The Hitler Rap. And so I'll just sample that right here.
Russians are coming. Let's get out of here.
don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? I forget what movie it's from. I think it's like Mel Brooks's Guide to World History or something like that. I don't know where it's from. But I just saw it on YouTube. It's pretty good. But the other thing, and last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up, is that another media reference that you had made in a different interview was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah. And that definitely could have like a red-pilled interpretation. I guess you'd reference the middlemen that was in the book. Yeah. So, what would you suggest? What are some things that like, you know, maybe songs that you grew up that inspired you that now you look back on? I mean, I know you have a lot of punk influence that now you listen to that's really red-pilled. And what would you suggest people check out?
I suggest to check out Ewan MacColl's Ballad of Accounting.
In the morning we built the city.
In the afternoon walked through its streets.
Evening saw us leaving. We wandered through our days as if they would never end. All of us imagined we had endless time to spend. We hardly saw the crossroads and small attention gave to landmarks on the journey from the cradle to the grave, cradle to the grave, cradle to the grave.
Did you learn to dream in the morning?
Abandon dreams in the afternoon.
Wait without hope in the evening.
Did you stand there in the traces and let them feed you lies? Did you trail along behind them wearing blinkers on your eyes? Did you kiss the foot that kicked you? Did you thank them for their scorn? Did you ask for their forgiveness for the act of being born, act of being born, act of being born? Did you alter the face of the city?
Make any change in the world you found?
Or did you observe all the warnings? Did you read the trespass notices? Did you keep off the grass? Did you shuffle off the pavement just to let your betters pass? Did you learn to keep your mouth shut? Were you seen and never heard? Did you learn to be obedient and jump to at a word, jump to at a word, jump to at a word?
Did you ever demand any answer?
The who and the what and the reason why?
Did you ever question the setup?
Did you stand aside and let them choose while you took second best? Did you let them skim the cream off and then give to you the rest? Did you settle for the shoddy and did you think it right to let them rob you right and left and never make a fight? Never make a fight, never make a fight. What did you learn in the morning?
How much did you know in the afternoon?
Were you content in the evening? Did they teach you how to question when you were at the school? Did the factory help you grow? Were you the maker or the tool? Did the place where you were living enrich your life? And then did you reach some understanding of all your fellow men, all your fellow men, all your fellow men?
That was one of the songs I listened to very much when I started to deal with the stuff that Lilou had made me think about. I listened a lot to it. It made me really angry, and it summed up the way it summed up my anger in an extremely. It summed up my anger in an extremely clear and very brutal fashion. It's an acoustic song by the old Scottish folk singer Ewan MacColl. I think it's a Marxist song from the start, but I mean it can be applied to almost anything and all the emotions that arouse when you look at humanity. And as you said, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I think is a brilliant description of how people are. I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant description of human mentality. It sort of reveals all those. It reveals everything human at its worst, and I really appreciate that. When it comes to other sources, I mean, there isn't so much that I really can recommend apart from our music, of course. But I think all kinds of music, etc., that are written from a winner perspective, and I talk about a lot about winners and losers, because what I believe is mostly missing, and what the right wing culture is all about is, as I said, letting winners be winners, losers be losers. I think that any kind of book, music, movie that celebrate winners and show losers like the losers they really are, I think that's good. And I wish I could come up. I mean, I rarely read stuff any longer because I think most of the stuff I read is boring. There is a book that I could recommend that is Rising from the Ruins by Joachim Oscar A. Anderson, a Swedish writer. I think it's Rising from the Ruins. I think it's a great book. Oscar A. is he has written about the new right and the rise of the right and the alt-right and identitarian, etc., for a very long time, and I think he has very, very, I mean, I think that is a great introduction to basically a different way of thinking, not one that perhaps is so much about what I'm talking about, winners, losers. But I think for people who perhaps don't have exactly my mindset, could be inspired by it, and could be more acquainted with what kind of people and ideas there actually are on the right side. Yeah, I'd say that.
Right on. I guess I should get back to work. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? I mean, I guess now's your chance. I'll put everything in the show notes of, all your links of all the sites you have and all your social media presences. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
A message perhaps to any listener. If you like our music, if you like what we do, please send us a message. I'm more than happy to talk to people who listen to our music and such. Please just give us just send us a message.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
I see your shade. nothing to share when we were young. From the streets of Shakespeare we're off to Magadan. We wished we had the wings to fly like the Tyrrell bird and sing to all the Bolsheviks what they had never heard. Born a free woman, I was born a free woman. I was born an orphan and Kalama was my home. That is what they told me, and I walked off on my own. And when I sank down on my knees to cut my wrists and die, reflected in the river I could see your colors fly. Born a free woman, I was born